on Orange Gum with Wendy T and Hope Skibitsky.
Hey, family.
We're glad to have you here. So today, I have been traveling, right? I have just been
You've been on the road. We were trying to fit in some time where we could just like when I was on the road, where I was like, okay, we'll just bust out the cell phone and try and sneak it in.
traveling.
But you got that like long list of admirers who all want to share a slice of your time. And so the time was ticking away, and then it was like 1 in the morning and then 2 in the morning. And I was like, okay, well, we'll have to postpone this.
And I mean, and I was so exhausted, right? And so I just kept piling more things on and more things on and more things on. And that I think stemmed us into
You're a
talking.
liar. This is a lie. She was not piling more things on. I think it was your fandom out there that was piling more things on for you. So it
Yeah,
totally led into today's like thought process.
it did. It sort of drove us to talk about what is your happy and what drives your happy when it comes to the time that you spend on things? Like, what's your measuring stick? What do you think,
And
honey?
we are always so dang busy. And so, like, why is that hustle culture like just, like in our DNA now? And I think, it's just we may have mentioned this once before, but I think when, especially both of us came out of long careers in the military, and when you're around everybody else, so like less than 1% of the population serves. So then when you're in that bubble of everybody else who serves, you start to feel very normal. Like this is just what normal looks like. Then you get out and you're in communities where it's not everybody who serves. And then you start to realize like we are not normal.
No, like, why does it feel like everything moves so slow? And slow could be good, but slow in my mind is like I could be getting more done. There could be more things. I could squeeze another thing into the schedule. I could say yes to one more thing. Justin says I have a say yes problem. I do have a say yes problem, but part of it is because I want to be a part of those things. I want to feel like that's still my community. I want to feel like I'm in that thing,
Mhm.
and I
Right.
don't,
So
I
I
don't.
want you to like, I want all of us to start saying yes to things like for ourselves, like say yes to the extra sleep. And so that's like never, like I say, it's very rare that that's the yes for me, but no, that's actually the area that I became very aware of how we are not normal.
Yeah. Well, I think you do a
Because
great
we're,
job. Every time we talk, you say, "Well, I built a new boundary," and then you refresh my memory on those boundaries that you've built. And I'm thinking, I need to build boundaries. I need boundaries.
well, I think that's because you're, threatening, some severe consequences if I don't. That's what good friendship looks like. Just so for all of our fans out there, good friendship looks like threatening behaviors from your bestie.
If you
Though
don't
she
take
is
care of you, I'm going to take care of this.
though she is tiny, she is mighty. So, like that hustle though, I think we get so used to filling out every second of our day. And, Jay France has talked a lot about, he has that book, The 5 Million Steps, and how he really took a break. Like he left,
Mhm.
he retired, and he took that time, no cell phone, no anything to really spend time processing and turning everything off and forcing himself to just have a minute or 5,000, or I'm sorry, 5 million steps to get life together and figure out what makes him tick. And I love that, right? Just the idea of how we don't have to always be on. And I am such work in progress in this area. And I feel like many of us are. And so
I
that's
think
what led to.
some of it is our own internal drive, right? That intrinsic motivation to want to be a part of a thing, to do a thing, to do it right. I think the other part of it is, at least from my perspective, I often have that guilt. Like, will other people perceive me as lazy if I slow down? Will people think that I just completely like fell off the planet? Will people think that I'm not trying to be a part of their community anymore? And
We absolutely,
it's not
we
that anybody
absolutely
has said
associate
it. Yeah.
that. We absolutely associate like busyness with productivity and success. I mean, we just do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I find myself all the time like saying yes to another thing and then trying to think like, how am I going to squeeze that in? Or when I do squeeze that in, what else am I saying no to? What am I giving up? Like, I don't get to see Justin all that often because he does the thing that he does with Master Gardeners, and he is spending a lot of time like taking care of the things that he wants to do with our property. And I'm going to work and going to events and on the road and traveling. And then when I do have time to spend with him, I feel like it's a rush. And I'm like, what am I saying no to when I say yes to something else?
That's 100% right. And that's something actually we recently talked about that,
Yeah.
where where you accidentally fell into saying yes to a couple of things.
I am so, I'm stretched so thin, I wasn't paying attention.
So, but I asked, I was like, is that the same time that Garrett's visiting? And you're like, but I have to. And I was like, no, you actually don't.
Yeah, yeah,
Because if it had been during the time that Garrett was visiting, like look, I would have been the bestie that would have been like, no, like you absolutely are turning that off.
yeah. But the hard part is though, is that once you commit to a thing, people are relying on you. And to back out when it's short of an actual natural disaster or family emergency, like
Yeah.
is ugly. And so that's,
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, I get it. I get it. But I like, so this kind of like leads us into what everybody thinks is success, or what that looks like for everybody will be very different. And
yeah.
so what's the most important things for us? And so what that might look like would be like maybe family time, or our own growth, or our financial success, or our physical well-being, or what does that harmony kind of look like? And so, your time with Carrot, I know, is very fundamental. And so
I just am so proud of some of the people that I've run into that since they have retired from the military, they are actually like, I'm writing a book, or I've started just baking cookies for my kids' baseball group or whatever. They're like unplugging and kind of doing life. And so like Sarah, she is literally like, hey, I'm doing life. I'm supporting my spouse. I'm letting, the world know that I'm kind of backing out of things. And I'm thinking, bravo, like good for you. I wish, and sometimes I think it's an insecurity. I wish I had the security to feel okay with backing out. But part of me is like, I don't want people to think I'm lazy. I don't want people to, and then the other side of me, I have these serious conversations like inside out in my head, like happening, like I care what other people think. And it's a mess.
those are my Ally McBeal moments for sure, right?
I love that show.
No,
The
Amber and Rose
baby, the baby with the bow and arrow.
Yes. So words that have never been said about you ever, like lazy, never comes to mind
Oh,
ever. Not for
I just
one.
have that severe fear, right? Of just feeling like and I don't know, we've talked about imposter syndrome a couple of times and all that stuff, but I don't know if it's this self-imposed thing that people are going to believe I'm this fraud that said I was a thing and didn't do the thing, or if I truly am afraid to be so disconnected because you learn a thing and then it's kind of like medical school syndrome where you learn about symptoms and then you believe you have all of them. But I feel like sometimes I learn about like bodies in motion tend to stay in motion and that people slow down and then they find out that they're terminally ill with something. And I know it's an irrational fear. I just still can't get it out of here.
Right. That'd be like somebody thinking your house is dirty.
No, they won't.
No, they
No
won't.
one will think my house is dirty.
No. So, but I understand what you mean, because, I stay up all night thinking my house might be dirty. Like, irrational thoughts.
That's right. That's right. And so, I mean, but what do we do about it, right? How do we create our own space where what I define is my happy place for success, or what I define for my busy level should just be okay, whether
Mhm.
that is like oversaturation or absolutely vacation. Why what do we do? How do we get there? How do we feel comfortable with that? And if it is too much, how do we back off in a healthy way?
So yeah, the difference between like working hard towards something and the burnout, right?
Yeah,
Like, how do we delineate that line?
yeah.
It's a great question. If I knew the answer to it, then maybe I wouldn't.
Well, Well, and burnout, I guess, can be defined differently by some people because I know some folks that are like, man, I've just been in the grind. I need a vacation. I feel so burnt out. But that isn't somebody else's definition of burnout. That's just, hey, I need to, in the words of Stephen Covey, I need to go sharpen my saw a bit so I can cut through these trees a little quicker. Somebody else's burnout might just be like, I have done this particular job for so long that I just want to change. I don't care if I'm an attorney and I now want to go cut deli sandwiches. Like, I just want to change. So I think defining terms for yourself is first important. Like, what does burnout mean? But also, I think defining what success looks like for you. And then in the words of Sean Aker, stop moving the damn goalpost. Once you get to what you said success was going to be, revel in it for a little bit, right? Like, enjoy
Right
that.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great perspective because, you got to the top of the mountain and you just want to be able to enjoy that view instead of like thinking like, oh, now what?
Yeah.
So
Justin and I talk about this all the time because when Emily was little, she used to do this thing where she was like, oh, can I have that toy? Please, can I have that toy? I want nothing more than that toy. Please get me that toy. And then we would get her the toy. She didn't so much as have it out of the packaging where she's like, there's this other toy. And we're like, no, 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 no. Like you said, you wanted that toy. Like, play with that toy for a bit. She's like, no, but there's this other toy. And so it was like constantly like, I want the next thing. I'm not going to enjoy this thing at all. And Justin uses that analogous on me from time to time whenever I am like, oh, but what about that? And he's like, remember when?
you're going to channel your inner 6-year-old.
Yeah, yeah. And so I struggle. I don't know if I'm the only one that I'm not just riding the struggle bus. I drive the struggle bus because I have a very, very tough time identifying like, what does that look like for me? And
Mm.
when other people say, but I hope you could really like up your ante by being a part of it, I'm like, oh, I really could. And then I'm like, but should I? Like, I am already exhausted, you guys. Like, anybody that ever watches us on the video, that Wendy and I spend half our time before we get started, like me adjusting the light, trying to light the bags.
every single time. Like what?
So bad.
When the majority of our listeners actually listen on everything but YouTube. So
Yeah, so I am already like sleep deprived, just shy of The Walking Dead. Um, and here I am trying to figure out like, could I be more if I added another thing to my plate? I don't know. So
yeah,
I
so I think
struggle.
like
I'm not good with this.
work in progress always. And
Yeah.
so the idea that we can include time for our own well-being. And so this, like I'm trying to figure out how to balance a few other things in my life right now. And so I actually got rid of my third bedroom to create a wellness room to kind of create that space for myself. And so I have a PEMF mat, I have like a little sauna mat, I have my meditation set up in there because I recognize that before I hit that burnout stage, I need to be intentional about creating some routine action steps for myself to have a wellness routine. I know you do quite a bit of meditation.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I think that's the only reason why I have not absolutely looked like that person that someone has just pulled the thread on the sweater, right? Is because I am very intentional about making sure I get my meditation in, even if it's 5 minutes in the car before I, go into work, or if it's, 10 minutes before bedtime. I always try to make sure I get some level of fitness, even if it's just walking. I have a treadmill at my desk. I bought this fun little trampoline that I just take a break and bounce around on. Justin's like, stop, you're making me sick. But I try to make sure that I get some level of fitness. I do some meditation. I try to eat right. I mean, I am very cognizant about what I eat. And I try to do all those things because I'm like, somebody needs to be healthy. Sorry, I'm knocking stuff over here. But somebody needs to be healthy to the point that they can be healthy. And since I'm not doing a good job of controlling my sleep or maintaining my schedule, I am trying really hard to make sure that I'm taking care of at least what I can control on the health
that's
side.
right. And that's where I think like I was like, okay, as I start to recognize that things are going to get busier in some areas, then I'm like, I need a better routine. So for my boundaries, I need to find space for some areas to create a wellness routine for myself. And so, and my hope is that some of those winding down steps will help me with my sleep as well.
Yeah. So I had the privilege of interacting with a coach, and he did a great job of kind of saying, Hope, so what's your moonshot goal? And I was like, a moonshot, right? And he was like, if you could do anything you wanted to do, money and time was not a thing. Like, what would you see yourself do? And he goes, it doesn't matter if it's even a real thing. Like, people had to imagine flying before flying was a thing. Like, what's your moonshot goal? Like, point it as high as you want and then aim for that. And then he was like, you have to be able to work yourself toward what are you doing to get to that. And if all these other things are getting in the way of you getting to that, then these aren't the things you should be doing. And I have to keep reminding myself of that.
Yeah, I agree. And we talked about this once before too. Like, when did we stop dreaming about those big goals?
Yes.
So like it was like a dream that I had since I was very little to play the piano. And I didn't go around picking that up until just now. So, why do we wait so long to find the things that are going to bring us joy?
Yes, we a lot of us do that where we're like, one day I'm gonna dot dot dot. And eventually we forget about the one day. And I'll use a very, very bad like example. So tons of our military friends would want to stay together, though an assignment was coming down the pike. And so they would quick have like a justice of the peace or courthouse wedding with the promised to themselves that they would have a big ceremony and reception for their friends and family to join them later. Well, next thing you know, they're married 30 years and lamenting over the fact that they never had the ceremony they always wanted to have. And it's because they
Mhm.
just kept saying, well, do we spend the money on a thing? We're already married. Do we have everybody come in? We're already married. Do we? And so they gave up on the big dream because they accomplished the little thing that was just enough. Um, that was a really bad play on that because marriage is not just enough. But I hope you get my point. I feel like sometimes I'm the worst at this where I'm like, well, I've already gotten this far. Do I need to keep aiming at the thing? And I'm like, but that isn't the dream. Why am I not still aiming at the thing? Wendy, why am I so bad at this?
I don't know. And we're very hard on ourselves. And I've heard you say this time and again. You are truly exceptionally hardworking and also very intelligent, but you will beat yourself up over like the actual education things. And so, okay, I know this for a fact. You love learning, but you hate school. Unless you are actually picking up something that it is like truly interesting to you, you are not going to pour time into it. And so the idea of signing up for an actual program, and this is like coming from somebody who's like, I will stay up all night, like going through every kind of degree program. So, because, we enjoy trying to find every kind of way we can be possibly different.
That's right, honest.
So like but why? Why would you beat yourself up so much to try and do and force a thing that you just don't enjoy, you
That's
know?
I know. And I don't know that I do it because I'm playing keeping up with the Joneses, because I don't ever look like across the street at somebody else and go, "Ooh, look at that big RV. I would love." No, I'm just not the guy. First off, I throw almost everything away because I'm just not a keeper of things. But second, I don't know that I compare myself, but I think somewhere in the depths of my soul, I think someone else might compare me. And so I'm like, well, if I don't have a PhD, will people take me seriously?
Yeah, is your credibility there?
Yeah, if I don't have the certification in rando, pick a thing, will people listen to me? And so I tend sometimes to forget that I have, I mean, 1,000 pounds of lived experience, and I've got a lot of like, you know, occupational knowledge because I've done a thing. To me, for some reason, again, I'm going to draw a really bad connection here, but I remember being in Afghanistan and hearing some of the nationals that worked with us say that they couldn't even care less about all the like M16s that everybody's carrying around, but they were mortified of the M9. And I'm like, really? Like, you know that the M16 is like a rifle, right? Like, they just had this connotation in their head of which thing was more powerful or which thing was better. And I've met tons of people with a boatload of like book educational experience, but they had very little like executional knowledge on. I don't think you're.
About me like I'm right here.
I don't think that's true at all. So how do we help somebody else that is riding this same struggle bus to one, identify what success looks like for themselves? Is it a pros and cons list? Is it, I mean, how do we, what kind of advice do we give in that direction, or can somebody else give us advice on that? And then, like, how do you stay the course? How do you not get distracted? I feel like sometimes I have, at the risk of sounding flippant about a mental health issue or whatever, how do I not feel like I have this severe multiple persons when I'm, oh, maybe I want to do this, or maybe I want to do that, or maybe I will try this thing. And I feel like I just can't stay the course on one thing.
So, what our success is personal and subjective, right? So the start with that and then start, I think we talked about this way earlier in our time together about, the saying no to things, and whatever we say yes to means saying no to something else. So what are our daily routine, daily, you just mentioned this, is this thing helping us to that? What is our priority? What is our big goal? And then celebrate the wins. Remember to recognize and enjoy that mountaintop view when we make it happen.
Yes.
So I think that those are easy things to try and just incorporate and not fill up every second of the day, because I hear people say this all the time, like, if we're not taking care of ourselves, like, if you needed $5 and I don't have $5, I can't give you $5. And
That's
so
right.
I can't give what I don't have, and I'm not giving my best when I'm on empty all the time.
You can't pour juice from an empty cup, right?
I just can't.
Yeah.
And I really think that I can. My I Ash used to say it all the time, like, I will run myself into the ground with a smile on my face the whole way to help a person out. I always manage to show up for somebody, and it just never seems to be me.
Yes.
I just refuse to make that person myself. And the only person that suffers in that is me.
That's, I mean, that's right. You're so spot on in that, is that if we aren't paying attention to if we aren't paying attention to us, our interests, our goals, what we want to do, who is doing it for us, right? Nobody. I
Mhm.
used to say this to airmen all the time. No one will ever have a bigger interest in you and your career than you will. And so I have to constantly give myself those reminders that, like, hey, set a course, be deliberate about that thing, and then stop with the distractors. Let everything else be relaxed. Like, let everything else be the time that you spend with your family, and you go make memories, and you live this one life you're going to get to live while you're on this one track for the thing that you want to do, right? Because if you're paying minimum balances everywhere, you're making no principal payment on anything.
Yeah. And it shouldn't feel like work all the time. And there's certainly work that has to be done, and we have goals, and we should be putting that effort in. But at what point are we living, like, actually living our lives and being able to enjoy that moment?
That's
So,
right. And I'm not like the world's biggest sentimentalist, but there's always that. I think even Brene Brown, I think, mentions it in one of her books, that there's like your birth year and your death year, and then there's the hyphen in between, and they're like, what did you do with that hyphen? And I know I've been incredibly privileged. I've met a lot of you, amazing, wonderful people. I have my Wendy, I've got Justin, I've got the kids, my family. Like, I have a lot of amazing people, and I've gotten to do a lot of great things. And so it doesn't mean that I have to give of myself to everybody else just because I love them. I have to remember that I have to be in that equation too. And I am the worst
mhm.
about remembering to save a spot on my dance card for me.
Yeah, you're the person that's lighting yourself on fire to keep everybody else warm.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I am a work in progress in this. I mean, I know that when people listen to these, they probably think, damn, Hope is a hot mess, because I literally am always like, babe,
You and me both. You and me both. But I'm proud of you for doing some fun things. I saw that you recently did the paint. So tell me how that came about.
so Justin and I used to tried to tell ourselves we had to be very deliberate about doing dates, going out on dates, enjoying time, doing things. And we had kind of fallen off the wagon with that because I'm like, oh, I'm so busy, or oh, I'm so tired, or I have too many different events. And finally, I was like, you know what? I'm going to book a few things. And so we decided we were going to go to the rodeo, which we had a great time. I mean, I grew up going to rodeos, absolutely loved it. My first concert was Brooks and Dunn. And so we had a great time with that. But then I was kind of like looking up, like, is there an escape room, which I'm miserable at? You guys never play trivia with me. I am awful. I can't solve anything. I don't know the answer to questions. So I was just kind of looking like what happens in San Antonio, and I found this place where you can go throw axes. I will never dive anything on a high risk activity form, so that is not of interest to me. You can also go into a room and smash TVs and guitars, but you can go into this other room and you can just throw paint and have a messy time with it, or you can go sit in the calm room and just paint things. And so we decided to go have a good time splatter painting, and I bought us some light colored clothes so that our clothes could be our art. It washed out completely.
Oh, I know, I know that you have a chance to catch up on social media, but I was like, did you get to bang on drums and all that kind of stuff too? Like,
Did. And then we had a bicycle that you could like roll the wheels and it would spin the table and make the paint fly around all over the
oh
place.
my gosh, how fun. Yeah.
And we had
See,
to bring our own music and like rock out to whatever we wanted to listen to. Yeah, it was a good time. We had a good time doing it.
oh my gosh. One of my early memories of our time together was when you were speaking at the MTI. What was it called? Blue Road
We
Ball,
were
right?
all-
And I remember sitting at the table and you weren't there, and somebody was like, I'm sitting next to the person who has the punk, what was it? Not Alice in Wonderland, what was it? Punk Bell.
the bell bag with the
Yeah.
tattoos and
They were
everything.
like, who owns this?
That's probably still one of my favorite purchases. I don't even know where I found it, but it's a great little like computer sized bag, and it has like one of the Disney princesses, but she's all tatted up in an AC/DC shirt and the whole thing. So yeah,
Yeah. And so then one of my one of my teammates got me the Punk Mulan wallet after that because I just bragged and bragged and bragged about your bag.
so fun.
Yes.
And so you are one of my successes, honestly. Like just you called me the other day and you said, Hope, I'm just always glad I don't have to celebrate my success by myself, right? And I'm like, ever. I will always celebrate your success with and for you, right? And so um you are one of my successes. Like just knowing that if ever I'm having the best day on the planet or the worst day on the planet, if ever I feel like the wheels are coming off this bus, I have somebody that I can reach out to that is going to be there for me, that will, you know, allow me to be my horribly ugly, messy self when I need to be, but then help me like collect all the pieces and put it back in the box.
Same girl. And so like I think that is a testament of where we are winning in the being busy all the time is we do make time for each other. And so we think about community and being healthy, having a rock solid friendship that takes an investment of time, and we do make time for that. And so no matter how crazy or busy the schedule is, there's always been time.
Yeah. Well, anybody that knows you knows that you are like FaceTime is your preference, right? Like if you're gonna call them, it's gonna be like,
Always
I'm gonna see your face
FaceTime
with no makeup on.
without warning. FaceTime
FaceTime.
without warning.
Yeah, and so I am the worst telephoner on the planet. Like I would rather a text or whatever, but if somebody calls me, oh, I'm willing to have the call, but I'm gonna forget to call somebody. Like I'm just the worst telephoner on the planet. And so I appreciate that about you. Again, a place where we are vastly different. It is never that I don't want to talk to you. I would talk to you all day long. It's just that I'm the worst telephoner ever, ever, ever. And so when you call, I'm like, oh, it's Wendy. I'm like, why didn't I think to call her first?
Well, actually, so Jess Claire and I were just talking about that because I told her how I had called you, and I was like, I'm so grateful to you that, I always have a person. And
Yeah.
so yeah, we were just talking about that. And I was sharing that moment with her. So
Because success isn't always something that sits in a frame on the wall or has keys that parks in the garage. Success oftentimes is the people that you're gonna spend your time with. And are you allocating your time appropriately? And I know that I need to do a better job at that.
I think you do a great job. I think that people, when you're around people, they never feel alone.
Oh, I love people.
Yeah, I
I
know
have
you
to
do.
tell this story real quick. So I had the opportunity to be at the Minot Air Force Ball, and I met this young couple. The gentleman had just graduated tech training. He's a defender, and his spouse, German national, who's now an American citizen. They are stationed there. It's his first base. They're brand new. They don't know anybody. They're sitting in the corner at the table. They look pretty downtrodden. And I wander over being nosy, and I'm like, hey, hi, how are you? And so we started
It's
chatting.
never invasive, never.
Oh yeah, I'm like, ooh, I'm in there, right? Like, you better hope you're not a crack in the sidewalk. I am the frozen water. I will ruin that driveway. And so I start talking to them, and I'm like, why are you guys not out dancing? And they're like, we don't really know anybody. I'm like, come on. So I like drag them out on the dance floor. I find every airman that's there. I'm introducing them. I'm making, here, get your phone out, share numbers, like, meet them, bring them into the fold, introduce them to by the time I was ready to leave, the young lady came up, she just hugged my neck and was like, thank you so much. This was such a great experience. And now I'm leaving here with people.
Really. And so again, we talked about this last time, but like that's one of the reasons we started this was because we laugh and we're so connected and dialed in, and to feel like people go through their hard things alone breaks my heart.
Truth.
And so, to walk through the different topics and to hear from people and say, like, this was just what I needed, or can you talk more about this, or can you dive deeper on that and share so that they can feel less alone in the thing that they're walking through. I mean, we do joke a lot about how we're work in progress, but the hope is for people to not feel alone in the thing that they're going through. And man, when you're in a room, nobody feels alone.
I love you for that. I love
So
that. And I love all of you for that. And like I have said time and time again, reach out, let us know. We could talk about this all day long, but we'll talk on another episode. But as always, we're glad you joined us. If you have questions, if you want to tell us what you thought about the episode, if you just want to tell us what you would like to hear us talk about, please visit us, send us an email, orangegum at gmail, orangegumpodcast@gmail.com. Nope.
that's right. That's
Hope's
right.
getting it all over the place here. Is that right? Did I get it right that time?
That's right. Yeah. Orange County Podcast.
Orangegumpodcast@gmail.com, or you can check out all of our episodes at orangegumpodcast.com. And so please listen wherever you listen. Feel free to check out the video out on YouTube, and as
Wherever you listen, and we are sending all the hearts.
all the hearts. And
Yep.
we'll see you next time. Take
See you
care.
later, family.